Nestled between green cliffs and winding channels, a lone Native American man propels his canoe through the cold, unbroken waters, navigating the river's curves with urgent precision. He is weary, a survivor of a violent encounter he could never have anticipated. His vessel, carved with meticulous skill, was meant to carry three, yet now he rides alone. The 8 companions with whom he had set out have been captured, taken by pale-faced strangers, clad in furs and armed with strange, gleaming weapons beyond his comprehension. But these strangers are no mere lost travelers. They are warriors with an unyielding will and shields of iron, unlike anything he has ever seen. Upon reaching his village, he recounts the harrowing tale of his friend's capture. His words are measured but heavy with tension as he urges his people to prepare for the coming storm. He speaks of bearded men bearing radiant weapons and shields, their presence marking an extraordinary and ominous shift in their world, one that will ignite the fires of confrontation. The native people, his people, have lived on this land for generations, their stories woven with the memory of ancestors who once roamed the ancient tundras of Eurasia. These early peoples crossed the vast, icy bridges of the Bering Land Bridge, in the shadows of mammoths and saber-toothed tigers, entering the Americas long before recorded history. To them, these are not mere myths. They are the living proof of the resilience that brought their ancestors here, surviving harsh climates and untamed wilderness, forging a deep connection to the land they would one day defend with their lives. As the Earth's landscapes shifted and ancient glaciers melted, the bridge between continents had long since been severed, isolating the peoples of the Americas from the world of these strange newcomers. For thousands of years, the indigenous peoples developed their own distinct cultures and traditions, wholly unaware of the world beyond. Then, in a turn of fate, the arrival of these unfamiliar figures and their alien technology shocks and unsettles them to their core. On the opposite side of the world, the Vikings of Scandinavia, known for their fierce raids, sea voyages, and far-reaching settlements, had carved out their empire from Iceland and Greenland to the coasts of Europe. These Norsemen, masters of the sea, had witnessed the rise and fall of great empires. But now, they faced a new frontier, a land untouched by the ambitions of the Old World. Their arrival on this continent marked the first disruption in tens of thousands of years of isolation, a moment that would test the mettle of both peoples. Thorvald Erikson, brother of the famous explorer Leif Erikson, leads this small band of Norsemen. Unlike Leif's earlier voyage, which reached the American coast without encountering any native inhabitants, Thorvald's expedition would not end in mere exploration. This time, as the wary Vikings look up, they see a fleet of canoes approaching, bearing warriors armed with stone-tipped weapons, bound by an unshakable love for their homeland. The Vikings scramble to form a defensive circle around their ship, shields raised to meet the oncoming assault. A hail of arrows, each tipped with sharpened stone, rains down upon them in a rhythmic barrage. These weapons, crafted by the native peoples with generations of expertise, are as deadly as any iron blade in the hands of a seasoned warrior. Despite the intensity of the assault, the Vikings hold their ground, their shields absorbing the storm of arrows. The battle is fierce, but neither side yields. Eventually, the native warriors retreat, and the Vikings, though battered, breathe a sigh of relief, believing they have weathered the worst. But fate has other plans. A single arrow finds its mark, striking Thorvald Erikson in the side. As he falls, he orders his men to bury him on this foreign soil, requesting that 2 crosses be placed at his head and feet, a testament to his Christian faith in a world that does not share it. His men, honoring his final wish, lay him to rest in this strange land, forever binding his memory to it. The crew, deeply shaken by the loss, returns to Leif Erikson's settlement. When spring comes, they depart for Greenland, carrying the weight of their captain's sacrifice and the haunting memory of a land that will forever remain etched in their hearts. Their return sparks a wave of tales about their encounters, stories that meld with the ancient Norse sagas, becoming woven into the fabric of their people's history. But this is only the beginning. Word of this strange land, its riches, and its mysteries spread swiftly among the Norse, inspiring a new wave of explorers eager to seek their fortunes in America's untamed wilderness. Some time later, another Viking named Thorfinn Karlsefni set sail for the Americas, drawn by the allure of discovery and the hope of establishing a permanent settlement. Thorfinn is a leader of great vision and determination, bringing with him nearly 70 settlers, a mix of both Christians and pagans. This diverse group reflects the cultural crossroads of Viking society, a world on the cusp of religious and social transition. Yet, Thorfinn's journey is fraught with challenges from the outset, as the harsh, untamed landscape tests his followers' resolve. Upon their arrival, fortune appears to favor them when they discover a beached whale, a fortunate source of food that will sustain them through the brutal winter months. The Norse settlers establish a camp of sod houses, small, sturdy shelters designed to protect against the biting cold. Their reliance on the whale meat underscores the harsh reality of survival in a land where food is scarce and the elements unforgiving. The Norsemen face a relentless winter, one far harsher and colder than anything they have known. As spring arrives and the frost begins to recede, the native people approach once more. Initially frightened by the sight of the Norse livestock, a strange and foreign presence in their homeland, they soon overcome their fear. They offer valuable pelts as a gesture of goodwill and examine the Vikings' iron weapons with a mixture of curiosity and caution. The Norsemen, too, are wary, but a tentative exchange begins. Thorfinn, however, is reluctant to trade his iron weaponry, fearing it could one day be turned against them. Instead, he offers the natives something entirely unfamiliar: the milk of their livestock. The strange, milky beverage fascinates the native traders, who eagerly exchange their furs for this new commodity. As a precaution, Thorfinn orders the construction of a palisade, a wooden fortification around the settlement, signaling his unease about the long-term intentions of the local tribes. This defensive structure marks a fundamental difference in the worldviews of the two peoples. Where the Norsemen see a hostile frontier requiring fortification, the native tribes view the land as a communal space, unmarked by borders or barriers. This contrast foreshadows the clashes to come. In the fall, the native people return, this time in greater numbers, bringing even more pelts and eager to resume trade. But an unfortunate incident occurs when one of the native traders attempts to take an iron weapon from the settlement. A Viking, viewing this as an act of aggression, reacts instinctively and kills the man. Panic spreads through the native ranks, and they quickly flee. Fearing reprisal, Thorfinn decides to take preemptive action. He gathers his warriors and devises a strategy to lure the native fighters into the woods and ambush them on Viking terms. The ensuing battle is brutal and merciless. Stone-tipped arrows clash with iron-forged axes, and the screams of warriors echo through the trees. Each side fights with the fury of a people defending their way of life. The native fighters, armed with tomahawks and arrows, wield their weapons with deadly precision, but the Vikings' iron armor and shields offer them a slight advantage. The Norsemen push back the native forces, leaving several bodies in the woods as a grim testament to the clash of civilizations. Despite their military success, the toll of constant conflict wears on the settlers. By winter's end, Thorfinn decides that it is best to abandon the settlement. Loading their ships with precious pelts and American grapes, they set sail back to Greenland, their dreams of a Norse America dimmed, though not entirely extinguished. These events are later chronicled in the Saga of the Greenlanders, one of two Icelandic sagas recounting Viking encounters with the Americas, which they called Markland, Helgeland, and Vinland. The second saga, the Saga of Eric the Red, tells a similar story, but with notable variations. This version blends the tales of Thorvald and Thorfinn into a single narrative, embellishing the account with a dramatic battle scene in which the native people outnumber and nearly overwhelm the Vikings. The Norse are saved only when a woman named Freydis, renowned for her unyielding courage, intimidates the native warriors by baring her chest and striking it with a sword. Both sagas, steeped in the oral tradition, carry echoes of medieval folklore, blending heroic deeds with elements of the supernatural. These sagas reflect a time when Viking society was undergoing profound transformation, shifting from tribal clans into more organized kingdoms. The Norse settlements in Greenland, once thriving and ambitious, were now dwindling, the final remnants of their bold expansion into uncharted lands. As Christianity spread through Scandinavia, the old ways, the gods of Asgard, the heroic tales, and the mysticism began to fade into memory. The stories of their encounters with the native peoples of America survived only as whispered rumors and fireside legends. In 1340, a wandering Italian monk mentioned a land called Marcolata, home to giants, and peculiar stone buildings, a faint recollection of the Viking sagas. This was one of the last echoes of those forgotten voyages. By the time Columbus reached the Bahamas in 1492, the Vatican had lost track of Greenland, a distant and forgotten outpost on the fringe of Europe. Columbus's arrival in the New World marked the dawn of a new era, one of conquest and colonization on a scale that the Norse could never have imagined. For centuries, scholars doubted whether the Vikings had ever truly set foot on American soil, dismissing the sagas as mere myth. However, in 1960, an archaeological excavation in Newfoundland unearthed definitive evidence of Viking presence: sod houses, an iron forge, and wood shaped by metal tools, confirming that Norse explorers had indeed reached North America around 1021. This discovery reignited interest in Viking history, providing tangible proof that they had ventured to the New World centuries before Columbus. Yet, despite this evidence, the Vikings never established a lasting presence in America. Historians speculate that their departure was due, in part, to resistance from the indigenous Beothuk or Dorset peoples, who may have seen the Norse settlers as a significant threat. As recounted in the Saga of Eric, the land they found was fertile, but they could never truly live there in safety or without fear because of the native inhabitants. In the end, the Norse returned to their homelands, leaving the Americas largely untouched by the conquest that would later reshape Europe. Today, these stories of first contact endure as a testament to the resilience of both the Vikings and the Native Americans, two peoples separated by vast oceans, but bound by a shared determination to defend their way of life. The Norse sagas, with their tales of exploration, courage, and conflict, serve not only as a historical record, but as a mythic narrative, reminding us of a time when two worlds collided and, for a fleeting moment, shared the same horizon.